Our speakers here for this hour are the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference School.
Thank you for having me here. So thank you to all those who took part in putting on this conference this year. I appreciate the opportunity very much. As you said in the intro, I'm from Southwest Arkansas. I've been there all my life, and I'd always heard the stories about and the legend of Bobby Creek and everything like that. But it wasn't until 2009 that I'd actually had something that kind of changed my life in a way that started me on this journey that brought me here today. It was a sighting that I had where I had seen the creature moving through the woods. I was driving in a vehicle coming home from work. It was in January of 2009. Toward the evening time, and what I saw across the road on all fours, it was extremely fast, extremely smooth. I've never seen anything else in the woods that moved as smoothly as what I saw that day. And for me, I've never seen anything like that before. I certainly knew that it was.
Is that one not?
Sorry?
No, it is.
I've never seen anything move like that before. And it was definitely faster than a bear. And I promise you that a bear cannot outrun one with what I saw. So that, with me, I went back and forth as to whether or not it was actually a real creature. What I'd seen, there was debate in my mind, and I was listening until 2017 that I've actually had a second sighting that I began looking for someone who maybe I knew through all the years that I had made acquaintance and friends. I was thinking sure that it had to be somebody that I knew who had an interest in the subject. So at that time I began looking on Facebook, joining Facebook groups, searching for names, hoping to find somebody that I knew. And in 2018, I saw a name in the Facebook group, and it was a guy that I had first met in 1988. William and I, we played on the same softball team, and there were one of the tournaments we had around Wicks, Arkansas. It was a hot day in the summertime, and we suggested let's go to the Costop River. And at that time, I was thinking, well, we're simply going to go to the river and we're going to cool off. It wasn't until 30 years later that I figured out that I'd actually gone on my first Bigfoot hunt that day with William. So sooner or later, you know, maybe I don't pick things up as fast as I should, but I eventually figured things out. And that brings me to the part that I want to talk about here in the intro to our presentation, and how William, he had been made fun of, and he'd been ridiculed for so many times, for so many years, that by the time I met him in 88, he didn't even tell me that he had an interest in Bigfoot. He didn't tell me that he'd seen anything. It wasn't, like I said, until 2018 that I finally figured it out. You know, we were friends with him, we played on the same softball team, we worked out together. He even let me fish in his pond. That'll give you an idea of just, you don't let just anybody come fish in your pond, right? But that was it. But it wasn't just William from around the Falk area who had trouble, who had been made fun of. I know Keith, he's told me that a lot of people that had sightings prior to the movie coming out, they had started telling people about what they had seen, and they got made fun of. And it wasn't until they started having the campouts that they finally came forward with their story to tell them what they'd actually seen. And I know it wasn't just about. I live about 40 miles away, and there were people in my area where people had had sightings, close up personal encounters with this creature. And they told their story to the people. And they got made fun of, and they just shut up. William was that way. But I'm glad he finally, has the character that he has, and he finally stuck with it long enough until people finally believed him. And I'm glad he's finally getting an opportunity today to share what's going on. And as far as the Falk monster, the sightings never stopped there. They continued in the 70s, into the 80s, into the 90s, and 2000s. We've had recent sightings in the area. We've taken people out. They've actually had their first sighting because we've taken them out into the Falk area, into the areas that we know. His research area since 1977. make sure I get that right. So, with this, and they're all over western Arkansas. The entire border of southeast Oklahoma and western Arkansas, there's so many sightings that are not reported because in that area, they're really, people, especially the older people, they have their character means more to them than money. If you understand what I'm saying. They don't want to do anything that's going to bring a negative opinion or a negative thought onto their family. So whenever they tell you something, that is, you can take it for granted. Because they're not going to make it up, because they've never gone public with it. They're not seeking fame and fortune. So if you get one of them to talk, you've done something really good. And that is good in my opinion that people are more open to this now. With this, I've had a few encounters. Like I said, I had that first sighting in 2009. So for the next several years, I had experiences. One of the things that took me a while to get used to was actually having creatures that would show up on my property. The area where I live, it joins a wildlife management area. So when we moved to the place where we're at in 2017, we began experiencing some different kind of things. I remember one time my wife, she was outside and I was inside the house with kids. My wife comes and tells me, hey, come out here and listen to this. So I'm expecting to hear a vocal, expecting to hear a tree snap, expecting something. And I go outside and I'm looking around and I'm listening. She's like, do you hear that? I said, no, I don't hear anything. She said, exactly. Everything was completely white. And I'm sure some of you may have had experiences similar to that, as we have. Another time on the same property, my son was with me. He was 4 years old at the time. And we were checking the hog trap and four-wheeler. And on my property, there's a creek that goes through. And it's the north part of the property is on the other side of the creek. And I thought I would simply extend the ride that day a little bit longer and go across the creek to just enjoy being outside and being in nature. When we get across the creek, we travel in about 150 yards or so, and there's a tree, probably about 4 or 5 inches in diameter. It's broken off about this high, and it's blocking our four-wheeler trail. And I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, no way. There's no way this really happened right here on our property. So I get off the four-wheeler, my son stays on it. And I'm walking around this tree, back down and happy, not paying attention to things. And the first 2 or 3 times my son tells me, come on, Dad, let's go. Basically, and I always, especially at that time, I'd always take a pistol and I would keep it in the case on the front rack of the four-wheeler. And after the 3rd or 4th time, something like that, my son slides up far enough on the four-wheeler seat that he can grab hold of this gun case. And he's holding it up to his chest. He's saying, come on, Dad, let's go. I'm not sure what's going on, but we're going to go ahead and we'll leave. And sure enough, later on, because the nightmare that he had of a creature that was trying to come into his room, I searched the picture a little bit harder, and I believe it's in our slide that we'll show here in a little while. But we've had many experiences. Most of them have been actually pretty good. Not negative for me. With some of the things that we've had, we have a really good research area. In Bought, as I said, we've had some that we've taken people out who had their very first sighting in the Bought area with us. They've been able to hear some of the vocals when we'll do calls, and they'll return calls to us. It's a very exciting, it's a very fun, I consider it a hobby for me, because I have to work and I don't have the time to dedicate to it, but I probably would if I were able to do that. So, I just wanted to introduce William, and I wanted to give a little background as to how, even though the movie space and the Bought monster is probably arguably the second most well-known Bigfoot, at least in America, it wasn't always good for those who had seen it, those who had experienced things. in the South area or southwest Arkansas at all. So it's usually met with ridicule and made fun of. All right. With this, one of the places that we have, we've had sightings in several places in the South area. Mercer, Ohio is one of the places that's a real good place to go to. My daughter, it was on, in 2018, December 21st, 2018, we had Christmas was on a Tuesday. So on a Friday night, I told William we need to go out, and we came to the area that we call our ground zero area. So at that time, we recorded an eye shine video where the eyes actually changed colors. We even done a cat call. Evidently, that wasn't a popular thing to do among them. So when he did the cat call, we saw the eyes change colors. We've done some tree knocks as well. But they stayed in the field. They were about 200 yards away from us. And we do have a still that we'll show in the slide in a little bit. That's out of that video. On that Sunday night, which was December 23rd, we went to the Falk area, close to through the woods, not far from the Relief Bridge, south of Falk on Highway 71. We found a track and road in the middle of the gravel road. We had an idea of the weight of the one that was there. The only time I've ever actually seen one that clear. It was at the end of 414. So we could see the face through the brush and clear. And so since we've had success there, we went to a place that's real popular in the area. It's called Thornton's Wells. And it was at Thornton's Wells. It was probably around 11:30 at night on that Sunday night. My daughter was 15 years old, and she had first started going Bigfoot with Dad in October. Because it was something we could do together. We got I helped coach her travel team and fast pitch. That was so we were still spending time together. And she started that in October, and December 23rd, she got to see one just across the water from Mercer. And across the water from Mercer, it's not very far at all. What would you say, 50 yards? 30 yards, looking at her. And she's told me several times since Dad, I want to wait a while before I see nothing. And she's kind of quit going with it. She hasn't gone in about 4 years. So, to give you an idea of what she saw. And to give you another idea of the size that it was, she drew William. I actually had her sketch out what she saw. I didn't want to influence her. I asked her to go to her room and sketch out what she saw. And she drew the creature, she drew the waterways, the trees, all that. And she drew William as a stick figure. You know, an idea of a stick figure. He's not really a stick figure material, is he? I can make fun of him now because he can make fun of me here in the slideshow. But this right here is definitely real. We've had many encounters, and we're truly blessed to have the area that we have to go researching. This is something. If you have an area, this is a suggestion that I have. If you have an area of interest, if you have an area that has a sighting in it, keep going back to the same place. If you keep going back, you spend more time in there, you spend more time in there. They're going to, I believe they're going to become familiar with you. And I'm pretty confident that they're familiar with us. I have found, in our ground zero area, I have found the impression, Bigfoot track, in between his tennis shoe tracks after he'd been there and left. And I gone. I found another time. He didn't even tell me he was going to the area, and I checked in on him later on. I found a trackway going for, what was that, 75 yards or more? About 80 yards trackway. Walking up there to where he had parked his truck and looked around for tracks. So I know, I'm pretty sure that one of them, at least one of them had a crush on him. And it was a female, so I'm better young than me. But doing that, we've also introduced the game cameras, and majority of the pics that we're going to show you are going to be game camera pics. And we set this up where we actually attempt to make them game. As to whether or not they're fast enough to take the tree, we're going to set out without the game camera going on. There are other things that we have learned about the creatures as far as this. With the tree manipulations, the tree bows, the X's, you'll find A's, or you'll find something like this. This may be 8 or 10 feet up in the tree. Or you may find other things that be really, really high, arch level. The thing that I've discovered about that is these things go for miles. And the ones in our immediate area, they tend to have a counterclockwise rotation or a counterclockwise circuit that they're going to travel through. And it may be more than likely it's bigger than what I even think it is because of the sightings in different areas. So with that, we do know that springtime of the year is the time that they tend to hang out in that ground zero area. During the summertime, they leave the area. The water sources dry up, so they have to move out. In the fall of the year, they'll come back. So we've noticed and we picked up some patterns. We've also had photos of some babies, or not babies, but very young ones. So it seems to be a place where during the springtime that they bring the little ones in. That's some of the things that we picked up. But there are many sightings, many encounters that we've had. We've both experienced infrasound. We've gone through that. Some call it diving, some call it being zapped. It's a really interesting experience to feel that. Maybe I should talk to that for a second. It's the most recent time I've experienced that was probably about 4 years ago. I was in Oklahoma with a group, and a different researcher who called me out to the spot where they were at, and they were telling me they could feel something. And sometimes I don't know how to exactly explain it. But it's like you can feel there's an energy or there's electricity in the air, or I'm not sure the best verbiage to use on that. But yeah, so I went out to where the research was at, and I said to them, I believe something is in this one particular direction. And when I pointed, what I was feeling, the energy that I was feeling, it hit me it went from a 2 or 3 up to a 4 on 10. But every researcher had never had a face-to-face sighting. So I thought, when I turned around, I could feel a vibration that went from my shoulders to my hips. It was like being in front of a big speaker. Just a constant vibration, which is a truly interesting thing. And how they're able to produce that and direct it, if you ever want to direct it, is simply amazing to me. Well, I guess hopefully I'll give William a little bit of an introduction. He's a great guy. He's one of the things that made me really draw to William when we first met in '88 was William's a little bit older than I am. As I said, we played on the same softball team. He never treated me like I was one of the dumb kids that didn't belong. He always treated me like everybody else on the team, just like I was one of them. And that made a lasting impression on me. It speaks a lot about his character. And what he's going to tell you, it's all going to be true. Nothing is made up. Nothing is taken from somebody else. It's all him. And I'd like to introduce my partner, William Lunsford.
I appreciate that. I appreciate Stephen's good words for me. I feel the same about him. And I think y'all can clearly see why he is my main research partner. Very, very smart, very articulate, very loving family man. Thinks outside the box whenever we go to our Bigfoot results. Again, I think because it's pretty easy to see why he and I make a good team. Steve is more laid back than I am. I go around with my hair just like, but I've had 2 aggressive Bigfoot encounters. And so that tends to make me where I get really excited when I talk. So I used to also be a UPS man for 35 years. So if I I get to zipping more out there like an auctioneer. Y'all just wait and I'll try to slow it down. But I want to thank everybody that's here, for sure. I want to thank Eric for making sure that we were invited down here. Like I said, our area is down there in Lower Arkansas, and I say in Lower Arkansas, there's actually Texarkana right on the state line between Texas and Arkansas right there. And so, being from Lower Arkansas like that, you're going to hear some four-letter words from me. It's going to be those words are going to be ain't and y'all. Other than that, I'm kid-friendly, family-friendly, and I really enjoy speaking these kind of things like this. I want to thank, again, here, Robin, Duke Sullivan has done a lot to give me some exposure here in the northern part of the United States. Diane for being there to pick us up at the airport. Our service people, our first responders, and our police, and our veterans, and thank my wife. My wife's, want to or not, she's been a partner with me in this Bigfoot journey that I've been going through. So that's hard to do. She ought to have angel wings if you fill up a celebrity Bible said a few intentions back there, but we're thinking with that. But for a lady, it takes a lot of family time. Bigfooting is a great, great hobby. It's more than a hobby for me. It's actually something I came upon actually quite by accident. And I actually, when I got there, it was actually totally something I never thought I would have gone into. You know, in saying that, we're going to talk about also right now probably the baddest creature that ever walks the plains around here. When you mention its name, everybody gets a sense of fear and respect. And I know y'all think I'm talking about Bigfoot there, but I'm not. I'm talking about the Cornhuskers, folks. I'm a Cornhusker fan. You cut this arm, I believe red and white Razorback. Or Tuscan. You cut this arm, I believe red and white Nebraska. Cornhusker. And so, again, I want you to know that they're very, very real around here. And being a Husker fan, I'm going to share something with y'all. Does anybody here know the four names of the Nebraska football team before they look at the Cornhuskers? Buccaneers. Okay. What's the next one? What was it? The Knights. Okay, the Golden Knights, exactly right. And then we also had the Rattlesnake Boys and the Antelopes. And so that's, after that, I guess they decided that wasn't quite scary enough. At Arkansas, we were known as the Cardinal. That doesn't strike a whole lot of fear in other football teams. Whether it's the little bird or whatever what it is, so they changed their name to the Razorbacks. Coincidentally, from the high school that I'm from was actually the Razorbacks before the big Razorbacks. And y'all have actually had one of our players there from Texarkana, a young man named Eric Warfield, who came and played for y'all here in Nebraska, and went on to go to Kansas City Chiefs. And also, a great player, you guy, and just really to be up here, it was for him to be the kind of guy that he is. It was really a pleasure for him to go up here. I've heard people say how much he enjoyed his stay here. So y'all really treated him well. Y'all have treated us well, and I appreciate that. I really do. I talked to a lot of y'all yesterday back there where we're selling books and speaking with y'all, and it has been a pleasure. And I hope sometime I get to come back here and visit with y'all again. This is not going to be a Bigfoot conference right here. We're going to say now if he exists, and if Bigfoot exists, and if we find Bigfoot, folks, that's not going to be it. This is going to be a Bigfoot conference right here. Well, I'm going to tell you with all my heart and all my soul, Bigfoot is real. There's no doubt about it. And I know you don't see any trepidation in my voice. You don't see any concern or whatever. Bigfoot is real. I've had over 40 encounters. I've seen actually over 40. But I'm also retired right now. I live in an area right here called the 4 states area. It's Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. And I've actually researched along the Mississippi River in Memphis, Tennessee, at Mud Island, and actually found some tracks up in there. But this is not a deal of saying that if Bigfoot exists and stuff like that, because it doesn't. One thing that I've done here that this hobby has allowed me to do, I did a TV show not too long ago. If y'all have watched the Travel Channel. It's a show called These Woods Are Haunted. And so they got in touch with me and said, would you be willing to be a guest on These Woods Are Haunted? And I said, well, sure. So anyway, I drove to Austin, Texas. And so when we got down there, they sent me on a stool for 8 hours to do the show, to make sure I was telling the truth. They tried to trick me with trick questions and everything else like that. They found out that what I was telling them was the truth. And so whenever they did that right there, then we have an episode. If you get a chance to look at it, it's on season 3, episode 6, and it's called This Is How I'm Gonna Die. And what's funny about this story is, because my wife could not go with me to Austin, they didn't include her. In the second episode in there, I've got my wife, I've got my son with me, and we're down there tonight. My son came with us, and he was going back to middle school. He said, Mom, go with us. And she'd always said, no, I don't have time, no, I don't have time. Well, this time she said, I'll go. I'm like, man, that's not what I'm used to hearing here. You better ask her again. So she decided she would go. So we did, and we got down there to Sulphur River. And so we're sitting up, she's playing. Every time I have take somebody new to Bigfoot, there's always one factor that is common with everybody. They bring their cell phones. So they're on their cell phones. My son's down there with his for a while. Cindy's got hers, and she's playing Word with Friends or Angry Birds or something like that. We sit down, my son puts out, of course, what's the national product for Bigfoot? Slim Jims. He puts out Slim Jims. And they do it Slim Jims. And so we also had put out before, we had put out some pears. And then I'm sitting there, and I do a call for Bigfoot. I do several calls. Sometimes it's called a cocktail call. And so you have to do sometimes 2 or 3 different calls. So I'm down there, we get everything set up, and my main call is a bar down call. It's called a bar down. Right there, with you, the little trailer, kind of stole so forth. But anyway, that's what it is. And then at the very end of it, like that, it's a real loud. So I did that right there, but nothing came in. We're sitting there about 40 minutes. I did some tree knocking. I got a stick, knocked on a tree over there, nothing. Finally, I thought, well, I'm going to try rock climbing. So I picked up 2 rocks in here. And when I do, we're at the end of this cul-de-sac, about 1.5 to 2 miles off the road. And I start clacking these rocks together, and I'm banging them together like the drummer from Metallica. And so we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, he answers back. And I told Cindy, I said, hey, there he is. Why do you know it sounds like an owl? I said, that's exactly what they do. They call him. So he starts sneaking around us back there. He stops. So when he does, he's standing right over there. Every now and then he gives us a faint stuff. You can smell that they have. I think they can control that. Truth is what I believe. It's an auto-defense mechanism for a skunk. So he kind of lets out a little bit their scent that they have. And I said, y'all smell that? I don't smell nothing. I'm like, okay. So anyway, I just sit there being quiet. See, he's playing Word with Friends. Reese's over there working with his phone and also, but he's also sitting out Slim Jims. A little bit later, I hear a real faint twig crack. And I said, we've got a Bigfoot coming in over here. Cindy. This is Blake. So she, I don't hear him. I said, just be real quiet. I said, he'll come in. So I sit there for a little bit. It takes a while for the noise to settle down. Pretty soon, you can hear him sneaking. And they're soft-footed animals, and we have pine needles on it. Every now and then you hear him hit that one twig. And I said, he's definitely coming in. Well, he stops whenever I say that. I said, he's standing right over there. So we wait for just a few more minutes, things settle down. And so it was springtime. It was on that Easter Sunday, 2014 is when it was. And I think that time the animals are Twitter baited. If you remember the band movie, they're Twitter baited. They're involved in spring fever. And so we're down there. So whatever it was, all of a sudden he decides that whatever he smells, that he's going to come charging in. So he comes in just stomp. And I said, did you hear that, Cindy? She goes, no, I didn't hear anything. And whenever he did, if you know anything about Bigfoot does make the sound whoop. Like that right there. Where he does, I make 3 wood sounds like that, and all of a sudden, you hear, here he comes. I said, Cindy, remember I told you got a Bigfoot coming in? She goes, yes. I said, here he comes. I don't hear nothing. I hear something now. So she jumps off the back of the tailgate of that truck. Of course, I stand in front of her, I pull out, and I go with my family. I'm a no-kill Bigfooter, I promise you, but I'm not going to let something happen to my family. I pull out my pistol just to shoot, make some noise, and I also have a spotlight. When he gets about 30 yards away, I see the shadow. I hit him with the spotlight. He goes down on all fours. He runs about 10 yards this way, and then heads back about 20 yards that way and jumps up in the tree. So when he does that, you can hear him over there. And my son is like, where is he? We finally catch him with the spotlight. And as far as, like Stephen said, the fluidity, the speed with which they can run, we couldn't catch up with him with that spotlight. Finally, he gets in that tree. My son said, Daddy's in the tree over there. So I go and get between him and the Bigfoot because I figure he figures my son's the weak link, and I'm not ready to lose my son at that time. And so we get over there, finally he jumps out of the tree and heads back down into the deep woods towards Bradford Landing, which is right on the Sulphur River, just across from it. And so whenever he does that right there, then I hear on the side. He had a buddy, and I didn't know about the buddy, and that's what was really scary, because I knew about this one here, because he was really making his presence known. But the second one wasn't. So my wife goes, Rex, and that's my son's name. She goes, let me have a gun. Okay, Mom. He hands her a little pen-like flashlight. She looks at him, she goes, what is this supposed to do? He says, they're more afraid of life than they are guns, and that's the truth. I go down there in the woods there, I go carry 45-70 because I have bears, I have hogs. A hog is called the Arkansas grizzly for a reason. I have hogs, we have, sometimes you have people, we have coyotes and things. So she says, give me a gun. So he gives her a gun. And so we're sitting there, and everything just gets deadly quiet, like what Stephen did, just like the inside of a tent. So he goes, can you do that? I said, no, what? She goes, no. She says, it's deadly quiet. And I said, it is deadly quiet. So pretty soon there, she sits there and she gets a little bit more uneasy. She looks at me and she says, if you guys hear this truck start, you better jump into the back because I'm gone. That's what she said. My son's fixing to finish dental school and come to this. If you ever said the doctor was going to come out of my wall, he's out of laugh like crazy. Sure enough, he's fixing to become a doctor. And he lasts about 2 years. And she says, you better listen to me. She said, I'm not kidding with you. I said, Cindy, are you going to leave the Embreeze down here with a row of Bigfoot? You're only son and only husband. You know what she says? She says, I'll have more kids. You better listen to me. And so we start heading out of the woods. So let's see her stitching on the dog. Cindy, what are y'all doing? We're down in the Bigfoot woods. Anything happen? Oh yeah. So position nonsense, make things even better. You know you're going to die. So then I thought, we'll never get back in the woods after that. But we did. And so again, my wife, she researches with me. My son researches with me. I've got 4 other partners that I research with, and we're very fortunate to they've been very, very smart men. Oh, I see my wife, and God met her. You can see she's very smart and very articulate. I've been married for 42 years. And again, I have been Bigfoot researcher and witness since 1977. When I walked up to one on the South River when I was fishing a series of gravel pits. And he's over there, he's on the side of the road, and I can see him, and I've been through this trail hundreds and hundreds of times, but I know there's something on this side of the road over here that's not supposed to be there. There's a big black shadow up there. And I stopped, and I've got about maybe 30 minutes to fish. And I had to walk about a mile and a half. So I'm back there, and I'm like, there's something wrong. There's something here's not supposed to be there. And I'm like, you silly. Now, and there he is with me. He said, no, he didn't me harm. And thank goodness I see it. So whatever I do, I get my phone, and I take 3 pictures, and then I take off running. I remember Bigfoot since 1977. I did this, I called my buddy, he's a Native American. I said, tell me about Godway. He goes, you didn't see one. I said, yeah, I saw him. I said, thank you before he saw me. He goes, oh, well, I'm so glad. He said, because those things will hurt you before you know anything about it. Very, very stealthy animal. They got the long snout and the teeth. There's the eyes. I said, I wish that was clear, but it's a good picture right there. I said, I'll be able to share with you. Okay, this right here. We have a Bigfoot down there that's over 9 foot tall. And he is huge. His name is Brownie. And so we got a picture of Brownie, but Brownie had put the pictures onto the SD card. I had to drive to Dallas to a place called Ace Data Retrieval because the picture wouldn't come off the SD card. So whenever I did, it was $159 an hour, guaranteed 5 hours. So they was going to play my clock good. I had to ask my wife, I'm not going to lie, I had to ask my wife, could I take it down there to Dallas? And she said, if I had your hobbies, I believe I would. So I did, and I had one of the computer places in Texarkana say, yeah, I've got this guy doing the best there is. When I got there, there's probably $5 to $6 million worth of equipment there. The place is run by some Russians, very, very smart Russian people. But in Russia, they have what's called the honesty. And so I left my camera there, I left the SD card there. They called me about 4 days later, and they said, well, we got some good news and bad news. And I said, well, what's the good news? And they said, well, your picture didn't disappear from your SD card. And I said, that's good news. And I said, what's the bad news? They said, we can't get that off the camera. It's burned onto that SD card. And I said, did you check the camera? He said, oh, you put it in the camera. It's there, all right. When you take it out and try to put it on one of our high-dollar computers, it's not there. So he had actually burned it in. But we came back about 6 days later. Me and Stephen and Cindy. Cindy's got her Canon 81 camera. She walks down to the end of the road while me and Stephen are checking SD cards. And so I see her put it up to her face just one time to take a picture. And she walks back down there. And what she said she just saw something black into the woods up there and just decided to take a picture. We're on the way home. Then after we get our camera done, she goes, what is this? I said, what? I pulled up to the side of the road. She said, this right here. And I just laughed. This is part of the picture. There is a baby Bigfoot right there. You see that right eye, you see the left eye, you see his little nose right there. You see a 3-fingered hand right here. In the original picture, right here is his twin brother, right here. He's more to the brush, so I didn't try. I kind of went with what the sure thing. Mama was standing right back here. But she got that picture no more than 10 minutes after we had been down there on the trail. So on the way home, she goes, you and Stephen, some kind of Bigfoot hunter. Y'all been Bigfoot hunting for years. It took me 6 minutes to get a picture. Now y'all can start reporting big for a while. She get pictures like this, I'm glad. This is actually a picture of a baby Bigfoot. And this is why I marched the April 1st, I'm sorry, April 1st. And this right here, this is the one I showed y'all while ago that I put on Travel Channel. This is actually negative, and this negative filter brought it up very much clearer. Right eye, left eye, fingers, you see the fingers right there on the end. You see the toes right there, right there. And there's also right here this dark spot in the negative. This is the baby that I was telling y'all that she had on her chest right there. And this is on Halloween 2018, and that's right there. And so she gave me fits before I was leaving. But she was not determined I was going to leave, and I finally did. And as I was leaving, I actually got a rock tossed at me. I guess she found a rock. But that's the negative on that. You see that on the head right there. She's leaning out, she's bouncing herself, but she's still hanging onto the tree on the other side. So that's the negative from that show, the picture I put on the Travel Channel, and that's the mom and the baby. This right here, one, this is not very clear. This is sometimes the best we get. This one's called gray face. You kind of have to use your imagination. Right there's his mouth, straight across. Nostril. His left eye is right there. The other eye is behind that limb. This is all we ever get a gray face. Man, evidently he's very old, very wise, and they'll always have some part of his face that's camouflaged, so we just can't get the money shot. Frustrated as all get out, but still to see that he's down there like that. When you find something like that, it just really makes your heart rate go up high. Okay, right here. This right here, y'all ever seen the Hendersons? Bigfoot right here. Got the brow ridge, got the eyes, got the nose, got the beard. Right here there's a space on. This one we call Harry just simply because he has some of the same characteristics as Harry and the Hendersons right there. This is all the nighttime video that we have down there, taken off with a spy point camera, which sends it back to your cell phone. Right here, there's the eyes of another one there that just was lucky enough not to be caught in the picture. But that right there is down there in the area that we call ground zero. This picture here is the three-toed track. Folks, y'all heard the three-toed tracks of Fat Monster? 1, 2, 3. These numbers are about almost 4 inches long themselves. That's Stevie's $20 bill because I'm too poor to have a $20 bill. I ain't ever seen the one up there. That's Stevie's $20 bill. You got it marked. A dollar bill is more like 6 inches, so you can see how wide this thing is. It's about 8.5 inches. Oh, I do. I'm sorry. I do have a picture of Cass that's sitting at Monster Mart in Val right now, and you can see how long those toes are. He's stepping up out of this. There was a pool right here. There was running water, so it's in half, and it's still, and in itself, it's probably still 10.5, 11 inches long.
I guess one more thing I do want to add, this right here is last year we went to the LDL, we met up with some people there, and a couple of researchers in Ohio. They have cast a track that's pretty much identical to this. And I just wanted to add that again. That far away from Arkansas and Ohio, they had the same thing there.
Okay, this right here is the most frustrating picture I think I have. This is what we call a witch. If you look right here starting out, you can't see as well, but I've got a little better picture of the mouth. This thing doesn't have the block teeth like what you saw a while ago. This thing has got canine teeth sticking in every direction that you've got. Right there is his left eye, there's his right eye, there's the nose right there. This one had thrown my camera, and I had spent 2 hours looking for my camera. When I finally found it, I'm like, oh, thank goodness, there it is. So I sit there and I pull out the SD card and I carry one of those little card readers. I put this in there. As soon as it comes on, I click it on the first thumbnail picture, and this is looking back at me. Scared me to death. She has got, and I'm sure it's a female, but she's got a big male she runs with over there. But she has got a look on her face. There's a deer stand that's probably not 10 feet, 20 feet back here. Steve and I have researched this area now probably 6 years together. He has been in it probably 8. There's not been a single person in this deer stand at all that we've been there. During deer season or whatever, and it's so old now that the top of the tree can start to fall around the stand. But so we have put a a camera on that tree at one time, and so we had one later on, that Bigfoot later on, leave us a gift there. I'll tell you all about that later if we have time. Okay, this is good. This is another case here where my wife, she has that, what we call the Ellie Mae syndrome. She goes down to the edge of the woods. If they have a young one, they'll bring it to her. They're right here. There's your brow ridge right there, the rainbow brow ridge. There's mama's right eye. There's mama's left eye. There's where her head goes back just like that right there. Right here, you've got the baby. You've got this right eye. You've got this left eye right here. And he's starting to develop that gray ridge right there above his eye. I think it's something that's probably the developmental factor about like a silverback does. When later on they get the back up there, they start getting the silver color. But anyway, like I said, she goes to the woods and they bring their babies to have a look. Again, what we call Ellie Mae syndrome. And I don't know what causes it. I think they can read your, I don't know this, but I think they can read your aura, whether you mean them harm or whether they don't, or whether you're a nurturing person. And she definitely is. And so she brings the baby up there to have a look. And so we actually got his picture. Okay. Right here, this, we had a dog in. Was coming through there. He's leading 3 Bigfoot. I happened to look to the right over there. And Stevie got the picture. I said, take a picture over there. He takes a picture. This is Mama right here. She's actually got breasts. You can see the arm is its skin. This is baby. She's pushing this baby away from this dog man. I don't know why, because we haven't had any really aggressive encounter with dog man so far. But this is it that we got.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. This right here, this is real neat. This picture is going to go into the Arkansas Hall of Fame at the Capitol. This is a Bigfoot laying in front of my camera. This right here is his eyes. He's got the black band ridge right there. He's got the brow ridge right there. There is the common head right there. So what's the rest of this, Will? Right here is his hand. You can see the black fingernails, the thumb, and everything. And inside his hand, he's got a snippet bar that we had put on his stick in front to bring it in. When we got there, we could see what we call a scooping cast, but it was in the mud. And we could see where he was laying there instead of mud, he was laying in the grass, and we could see the body part right there. So Stephen, we got the scooping cast. Sure enough, we get it, we bring that up. That's back there on the table as well, on one of the flashes that we have on the tablet. But you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers. There's the thumb right there in the black fingernails. And so this actually was going to go into the Hall of Fame in Arkansas till COVID came through. So after that right there, hopefully they'll still have it. Again, that's the same picture, long enough. This right here, there's where his left leg goes. That's actually his left foot. That's his right leg laying right there. He's laying on the side of the dirt. That's his shoulder right there. Again, there's the hand, there's the eyes, there's the brow ridge, and there's the top of the head right there. So, this was a comparison picture. A lot of our research is done, you have to do with comparison pictures. I'm not saying Bigfoot is an ape, I don't know, but I know the brow ridge is the same. And the hair on the forehead is the same. So we put this up there just kind of as a comparison as for what you've got. And he doesn't look like he's real happy to have his picture taken. He kind of looks like Walter from Jeff Dunn, or sometimes he looks like our president. You have to look at him. Just kidding, folks. This right here, I got this last year in April. And this is Mama. She's walking across the field. Everybody criticizes Stephen and I. How come you guys don't get any video? How come you don't get any video? This was walking across the field. I'm like, there he is. Man, I spit up there as fast as I could, slammed on the brakes. When I slammed on the brakes, she heard it. She turned and she looked at it. So we're sitting here with a staring contest just like I'm doing with y'all right now. She won't hardly move. We're sitting there, but I noticed some movement right here around her belly. And I told my friend, he come in, fine, good deal, thank you. Come here from Alaska to go Bigfoot hunt with Steve and I. And so I told him, man, I said, I'm going to go somewhere. Let's go ahead and get a picture and see what we get. And when we do, there's Mama's left eye, there's Mama's right eye, there's baby's left eye, baby's right eye, and right there, you see the nose. This is the most human-like facial feature that I've ever seen in this creature right there. That's the nose, left eye, right eye, there's the cone head right there. Walk across it, they got the most beautiful coat I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this shines exquisite. Okay, right here, boy, y'all want to see this dude come to the back of my table before you leave. Same guy, Daniel and I from Alaska, we're there in the field. We hear some movement. I told him, Daniel takes some grid pictures. So he just takes some pictures like this right here. He has a phone, he works for the government. The picture cameras are unreal. When we get back there, we're still in the field. He has a photographer set up. So he sends the pictures to the photographer. She sends back a laser drawing. This right here. And I do want y'all to tell me if you will. This right here is his face. You see the mouth, you see the ear, you see the eyeballs right here. And then it's a comparison picture with this one right over here. What's also clean, you see right here, that's a hand. This one has a baby wrapped around its body some way, and it's out there showing right there. Quite possibly another that's right back there that you can see part of the eye. Okay, this one right here, again, it's a little pixelated, but the camera's set up in the same place. This is Mama coming down off the hill. You can see her head, she kind of turned sideways. You see the bent leg, you see the bent leg, you can see Mom's arm right there, and she's got great open legs, and there's a log right there. She set that baby up across that log right there. And whenever she did, she just had to get her lifeless captured by. Okay, this is the one my son wants to call Gollum. I don't know about Gollum, that's not as clear as what we're trying to excuse me, got 5 minutes. This is one right here that's a strange one there. It's between me and Stephen. There's Stephen right there. And there I am back to the back. It's very, very cold. Here this thing is right here. You think, well, you've got nothing. All of a sudden, the next couple pictures we get, this thing has walked over here. It's off this tree. And we don't see it. We're standing right there by it, and we don't see it. We take it to the picture of my wife there, and she goes, well, what is this in the middle? I said, what are you telling me? Right here. I said, there was nothing there. Oh, yes, there was. I have no idea what it is, but that's him right there. It's like, it's almost, if you believe the little people, many, like they have in Hawaii or whatever, that could be what that is, because this thing actually walks right over here by the Stephen's leg, and we can't see it. There, like she said, in 2014, my wife and my son, Bigfoot charges. I've got this 44 down there. I go back the next day to see what I can find as far as her tracks. I told you, I said, he's standing right there. I walk over there, toe 1, toe 2, toe 3, toe 4. 16 and a half inches right there on that gun right there, and you can see that. And so that's the one that's after us that night. Okay, 7 foot 5 inches from there to there. Down there by Mercer Bible, 6 o'clock in the morning. Man, we were so excited I was getting my plaster of Paris. When I did, it had hardened, it had accidentally leaked. I called Cindy, and Cindy, get down here quick with plaster of Paris. We got a 7 foot 5 inch track away. She's maybe 5 minutes away. Here comes a knucklehead with a boat in the truck. He drives right to the middle of the track. I like had a smoking spell, folks. So I didn't get the picture, the track, but I did get the picture. With this right here is one's a little bit different. I think this is probably a skunk ape. You can see the toe, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the toes are more round, the foot is more square, right through there. Okay, again, this is from Prescott, Arkansas. Right there where my deer stand goes to. I haven't seen him come up, he had been coming up the hill. This is one of the tracks that he had made. You can see it's clearly 8 inches wide right there. So it's about a 16 inch by 8 inch track. Again, this is the same track 2 weeks before, not the same track, but the same picture 2 weeks before. And you can see the toes on the 3-toe track filled up with water. And this is from my buddy Shannon's land, 3-toe track right there. 1, 2, 3. This is from Pat May's Lake in Texas. This is actually multi-tool. You people who would carry multi-tools. Look at the size of these toes. They're 2.5 inches. They're wide and probably 3 inches long. Steve found this on the banks of Cossacott River on a sandbar. A man who actually saw one bathing one day in the water. He thought of somebody duck hunting his favorite spot, which he happened to own. He drove down there real quick, and whenever he did, he jumped out. The thing looked at him and jumped up, took off running. So he invited me and Steve to come back down. About a week later, we find these tracks. Right here, this is actually a Bigfoot that picked up an alligator. And I've got 2 pictures of where he's actually picked up an alligator and ate it. And you can see this is toast, just a 3-toe track. I'm tracking the gator as he's walking through there. All of a sudden, this joker comes out in the woods right there. He goes up behind the gator from what you can see in the track, actually, in the track proof. All of a sudden, the gator track disappears. This track becomes about 200 pounds heavier. And so, this gator didn't have a good day, I'm sure. Okay, this is one that we found there. You see clearly, you see the toes. And you see that, that's about a 13-inch track. It's not one of the giants that we have. But I always find this is a wash up here on the side of the road. We were finding tracks in this wash every single time that we came down here. They were coming out of the woods and usually just go to a different trail. Okay, this right here is the world's smallest baby Bigfoot track. I've got a basket back there in the back. It's 3 3/4 inches. There's the heel, 1, 2, 3 little toes. They're just like that. So with that big plastic there, I think the basket came out very, very well. So I've got it back there on the table right there. Okay, this is one of the latest tracks we found. This here's 18 and a half inches. And not sliding, it was actually stepping. We were having tornadoes every other day in Arkansas, kind of messed up the, as far as the soil, everything else like that, because it was a massive track. Okay, this right here is on the banks of Little River. We sent this to L.A. Marzulli. He wanted to use it in one of his deals at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference. This one's a splayed toe. You see the link there right there. I don't need to tell you that right there. There's the other 3 toes, 1, 2, 3 up in a rising deal. And then this is probably about 8.5 inches wide as well. This is found on the banks of Little River. It's actually looks more like a monkey track. If it's not, and if it is, there's monkeys in Arkansas. Okay, this right here, another track. I don't even need to tell you what that is. You can see all the toes right there. Again, you see one right there. Deer coming through there. Evidently, he was striking the deer, and he missed his cue. Deer went that way. He went that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 track. Again, same way. Big track right there. And I think he actually turned around. He's got 4 toes right there. And he goes back in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then again, this is the one that's on up in Shannon's land. Is that one that he saw? Those are at the end right here, so everybody else can talk. I appreciate y'all's attention. I apologize for the poor quality that we have on these things. Okay, and another 3 toe track right there. This is pin, the ground, which is one of the characteristics of Bigfoot sign. The tree right right there, about 6 foot. You can see this is that self-explanatory. And this is we've got one that mama cross stepping across 2 logs. These are the 2 logs. So that's right. Things like that. There's mama right there. That's what mama did Bigfoot. She's got on her shoulder. There it is. She's got her arms spread out, and she's stepping across those 2 logs. That's right. So that's why. With these right here, what my wife told me were blue-eyed jumping raccoons. They're about 7.5 feet tall. There's nothing out there. I have no idea what it is. There's nothing out there, because these eyes out there are suspended in midair.
So these guys, it's lunchtime, right?
That's what we call it. Folks, that's going to be it. I appreciate something. Oh, well, we got to test this one more night. Dog man coming out of the woods. You don't believe the dog man? Start believing, because here he is right here. So we were coming up the hill. He goes, stop. I said, what am I doing? He goes, nothing. He said, look over here. Here comes the dog man out of the woods. He's leading the trail about 50 yards coming behind him later on. There's 3 Bigfoot coming out here. So there's dog man coming out of the woods right there. Folks, appreciate it. Thank you so much. We're all day long. If we miss my flight one, I'll fly the next one. So y'all come on back.
One more time, Stephen Hill, Wayne Lunsford here.
Because the week before, I had about 2 weeks before I'd been down there, and one of them had screamed at me. But I thought it was either bear or panther. I had bought me a boot knife. I thought, man, you 18 bulletproof, we're going to hit the root in this situation right now. When I get back there, and I'm sitting there staring at him, I'm like, nah, you're just being silly. I start to walk, I stop again, and when I do, he stands up. And he's over here squatted down like this, and this one was left-handed, I promise you. He's got this left limb over here with his left hand, and he starts to stand up. And when the limb gets to, this is the middle of his body, when the limb gets to right here where it's supposed to be, he continues standing up. And I'm looking at something 7.5 to 8 feet tall. I can only explain to you, God, everybody here's heard of Andre the Giant, the wrestler, okay, 7'4", 550 pounds. I can only say, the only comparison I have is this thing's ever been beat Andre the Giant. And he walks up there in the middle of the road, staring at me, his eyes are just solid black. And he just starts teetering back and forth, just like this, looking at me. Guys, I'll tell you what, until I come to Jesus moment, I have one. Because I'm going to listen to me. I said, Lord, please, if this thing kills me, let it find my body and be with my mom when she gets through it. And I said, if you don't help me, please don't help me. So he just continues to sit there, and he teeters like this, and I guess he tires what he said. He walks back to the same tree, the very same tree, pulls down the same limbs, squats a little bit, what we call skinning the cat in Arkansas. Takes all the limbs off and all the leaves up and everything. Stands back up again, and here he comes. I'm like, well, this is it. So I'm sitting there, I can remember, as you can see right now, my blood pressure is very high. I'm reviewing this instant as I'm telling you about it. I did this one time in a doctor's office in Little Rock, which had surgery. I started at 137 over 85 with my blood pressure. The lady says, you seen Bigfoot? I said, yeah, tell me about it. Just as I'm telling y'all, all of a sudden my blood pressure goes to 167 over 90. Then it goes to 204 over 96. They call the stroke alert team. No, I just said, don't call the stroke alert team. He said, this is what happens whenever he retells this story because he revisits it, and it does. It's like a video loop in my mind. And I said, you can still see the same amount of emotion. My eyes were filled with tears, not just I had water in my eyes. No, I was afraid. I was scared. When you come to realize this is probably your last moment on earth. And so as he's sitting there, and all of a sudden, he looks up to the step and he wheels on his left leg. Takes 2 steps into the woods. And the 3rd step, I can't hear him. I can't see him. I want to run as fast as I can, but I cannot run. I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Finally, my wits come to me a little bit. And I was a mile up at our high school. And so I thought, buddy, I could swim like a fish. There was some gravel pits behind me. I was going to dive into those pits and go underwater and swim to the other side there. I was going to start running my mile. I took off running, fishing tackle and all, knife in hand, and I decided to go ahead and run a mile and a half. I did. I just know he's going to catch up to me. He's going to catch up to me. This is where I've got my truck parked. Throw my riding wheel doing that. Over the gate, I dive through the pipe gate.
So when it pans over, when it comes back to their slides, so you just slide this over and
get into the vehicle, get it started. I take inventory of myself. Myself is crying. I'm just literally beyond to where I can think. And I look at
Okay, so
there's
slide.
and
Here goes to the side,
and there's my
back
house.
out,
And I'm a whole kid.
pan it a little bit.
I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? When I say fishing is like Bigfoot. It's not just a matter of life and death. It's much more important than that. So I took my vehicle uphill about 4 feet, put my stuff into the truck, into the Dodge Dixie can, the hatchback, and then I drove back home. Just knowing that if I saw him again walking across the road, I was going to have a heart attack or I was going to have a wreck. Now who do you think believed me? Anybody? I went home and told my best friend. Man, I know you saw something, but you didn't see the foul monster. Yeah, I saw the foul monster. No, you didn't see it. My coach, who was good enough, as his teacher's aide, he let me go in there every afternoon. I had 2 periods with him. He was actually a professional football coach, a man named John Jenkins. And he said, you know, we got big grading papers. He and I would lift weights every day. And then if I didn't have anything else to do, then I could go down and travel with him. I told him, he goes, I've been working you too hard at it. And he's a real character. I said, yeah, you have. I said, let me go today. Because I said, no, I'm just kidding. I would not go back. But I went on and I told my mom. And my mom said, son, what is wrong with you? Again, like I said, she could get all being right. And you can tell, you can see the wetness on my clothes. And whenever I ran that mile and a half back there like that, I jumped a 20-foot creek that I didn't wade the first time. Almost like a steeplechase race. She said, son, what is it? And I said, Mom, I saw the foul monster. And she shook her head and she said, the foul monster? And I said, I saw the foul monster. And she said, well, son, I believe it. She said, I just don't believe I tell anybody. Well, I didn't really follow her advice, but whenever I did, I started telling people. They laughed, they made fun. Well, that's the same place that, where'd you see it? Oh, I saw it down there at Dave's Creek. Oh, I went through the gravel. Oh, that's the same place that I saw the Easter Bunny last year. Boy, they, you know, everybody would hee-hawing and all this stuff like this, you know. Well, how long did it take you to sober up? I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I don't do drugs. I said, it didn't take me no time. I said, because I wasn't drunk. So I took a lot of reading. I kept it in a vault for a long time. Finally, something became where we can talk about Bigfoot a little bit. People who've had sightings, you know what I'm talking about. It's almost like you've got a support group now that you can vent with some of these sightings that have happened. And so you can get that off your chest a little bit. And so with that right there, I started to tell more people. I worked at UPS 35 years as a driver. I would be going to the country, driving to somebody's house, and while they're in the woods, there's Bigfoot here. I'd say, go up to him and say, you know, if Bigfoot's not back here, the reason he's not is because it's too far for him to walk. I had one lady look at me one day and she goes, you think so? And I said, yeah. She goes, be here about dark and see what you think. I told her, I said, I'm afraid of the dark. She goes, well, you should be. I'm like, oh no, I got to find out more about this right here. But I was getting more stories just like that from people who had sightings. I'm like, they're not just here in Texarkana. They're not just here about. They're a little bit of everywhere. I went all the way to the Washita Mountains in Arkansas, all the way to Texas, almost all the way to Oklahoma. And so then I realized that Bigfoot was real. I had another sighting in 1985, or 1985. And whenever I did, it was on the banks of Mercer Bayou. You heard a lot of talk about Mercer Bayou. I put my boat in, had a brand new boat. My nephew was with me. We come in, we're just a little bit late. And so it's dark. GTC, go and get your vehicle. I walked across the boat ramp, get my boat, pull it in, pull the boat onto the trailer, we're sitting there having a good time. He's 8 years old, he's been fishing, he's having a ball. All of a sudden we get over there from the corner of the parking lot. I've got an 8-year-old kid with me. I know what it is because I heard it the first time that I was down in Mercer Fire, down at the other place where I told you I had the first sighting. This is my first time to hear this at Mercer Fire. I told him, get in the truck. What did I say? Get in the truck. What did I say? Chris, get in the truck. Finally gets in the truck, get it in. I run around, I don't tie my boat down. I'm proud of this boat. There could have been no prouder if I had the Mayflower right there. But it was just a little bitty 14-foot boat motor. I drove up a mile and I tied it down. I went to get out and he goes, you're not getting out, are you? And I said, just stay there, I'll be fine. So I knew right then I had to learn more about it. And so I began, and the more I found out on my own, the more people that I talked to, I began to realize that these things definitely are here. They're not just here in this Valk area. So I decided that I was going to didn't decide really, I morphed into a Bigfoot researcher. And so that's what I started doing. I started getting more and more sightings. And again, I was sitting there, I had to tell a funny story. I'll cut off here. Last week ago, this is some of my notes. I had to make notes so I can cut it down so I can speak about 25 minutes. Otherwise, we'll be here a while because y'all know I like to talk. But someone said, is that a calendar? That's kind of a good laugh. I'm like, well, yeah, it is, but it's really not. But I met Cindy back then. And so I was very quiet about my sighting I had on the Salt River down there, down the gravel pits. And I knew sometime I fell in love with her, and I knew I was going to have to tell her sometime, but I also knew I was going to have to tell her folks. So one night the situation gets up there, it's just right, and as we're talking, I said, well, folks, I'm going to tell you something. I said, I've seen the Valk monster. Well, everything got just quiet. Even her dog got quiet. Started looking at me like, I've seen the Valk monster. And they kind of looked at me for a little bit. First thing I was expecting from her dad, well, son, that's a real nice story. And he said, you stuff together there by the back door, just be sure you pick it up your way and don't come back. But that was not the story I heard. Where she lived at was about 5 miles outside of Texarkana, going towards a town called Magnolia. It was on the east side of town. And she tells me, so her mom tells me the story. We have a lady over here, she has a garden club. She had set up her chair about like what y'all set up right here, with the back towards the fence. And so she's hosting this garden club party. And while she's hosting this garden club party, here comes about 7.5 foot tall, pine covered Bigfoot. And it's sitting there walking down and it's looking at her, and it's walking really slow, and she really makes her nervous. She's watching it as it goes, and it keeps going, and so she makes sure she tries to keep these other ladies' attention on her so that they don't turn around and see what it is and get into a panic. So anyway, finally the thing goes, and there's a 4-strand barbed wire fence right there. Without her breaking stride, this thing steps the barbed wire fence and keeps on going. And she tells my mother-in-law this story. That was not the story I was expecting to hear. The story I was expecting to hear because it was by will, we'll see you later, nice to know you. So when I heard that right there, I knew right then that's the one I had to marry. She's got Bigfoot on her property, man. We've already got something in common right there. So that's one of the strange experiences that I have had right there. And being married same woman for 42 years, I said it's just been quite a pleasure. We talk with each other all the time. I tell her, I'm getting too old for this Bigfoot speaking, Cindy. I know I've still got the body of a 16-year-old. And she goes, well, you better give it back because you're getting all wrinkled. And I kicked with him. I said, I'm so proud of you because my hair's falling out. I've got 2 middle knees. I'm getting fat. She goes, well, look at it this way. At least your eyesight's still perfect. So, but I do remind her, I said, after this, remember you just said that next time I see you, there's a Bigfoot in this picture in this field. So we have quite a bit of banner like that. But again, it's really, it's one of the things that is something that we all do. It's something that I don't think she expected to be real. It took me 33 years to make a believer out of my father-in-law, very wise, patient man, and now he's one of my biggest fans. And the thing is, when we think about Bigfoot, especially about monster, everybody thinks, 1971, 72, the legend of Boggy Creek. Actually, the first sighting of the Valk monster was around 1908. Now you think, what was 1908 going on? 46 states at that time in the United States. 48 years before Abraham Lincoln was president. That's the first year the before came out with the Model T. The Wright brothers proved that you could actually fly with the 2-hour plane flight here for their flights. The first time that the ball ever dropped from Times Square in New York City. The first time that Mother's Day was ever observed, and again, the first reported sighting of the foul monkey. From that on, that kind of puts that into perspective. It did for me. This has been a long, long time. This isn't just 1971. It wasn't. It was even before y'all seen Patty. Bigfoot that walks along there and she turns and does like that. It was before Patty. Patty was 1967. 1958 was Jerry and crew, the logging crew, whenever they found the tracks there over there in California. It was at least 50 years before that. So that tells you how long they've been here. How long have they been here before the sightings were ever reported? We don't know. But folks, they are here. And there's something that if you get a chance to see one, I feel very fortunate. I had 2 encounters that have been violent. One I had a pit bull with me, and the other was during the springtime up there. Other than that, y'all would have a different speaker today because they would have called me and I would not be here. But that's kind of some of the background that we have right there, how I got started. And I want you to know, I said, without doubt, I promise you, by my heart, Bigfoot is real. And I've gotten to be associated with several people, even Keith. He played the preacher in the Legend of Boggy Creek. If he wouldn't have played it as well as what he did, he'd be sitting here now. Because, man, when he walked, I walked those banks of Sulphur River, and there's Steve. And when I saw him go up that side of that hill, being about 6'6" and about 300 pounds, I'm like, that's a guy I've got to meet. Finally, about 40 years later, I got to meet Keith. So I've got some real good friends. Met all you people are great people. Man, the people I met yesterday, you meet some of the greatest people at Bigfoot conferences. You really do. We may look a little different. We may talk a little different. Like I said, ain't we all? Y'all ain't hardly heard that one yet, but it's here. But so, the people who want to judge us, if they do, then let them go on. But I'm not crazy. I was called crazy. I was called everything in the book. But Bigfoot is real. And you're just as liable to have a sighting on your way home as what you are in the parts of the evenings. Their numbers are increasing. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But guys, that's just kind of a little background of what we got right here. Like I said, I had to write it down and make sure I could get it in 25 minutes, and I did, so I can't believe that. So, but I'm going to sit here now, and we're going to do a presentation, a slide presentation here. Stephen and I, people say, you can't get pictures of Bigfoot. I've got some from my cell phone, I've got some from my wife's Canon 81 camera. We've got some from our game cameras. And what we do with our game cameras in order to get Bigfoot pictures, they're so familiar with their territory. If you just stick it on the side, like y'all do this screen right here. If y'all see me standing in front, there's something different about that. Well, that's how good they are with their territory. When you just put that camera sticking up on the side, they know you're there. So he and I tend to put our cameras inside the brush. We find brush. We clear away the brush, put our foot inside so that the wind don't blow up. We don't get 100 feet of the grass or sticks, everything else like that. And what we do, we put it in there, and then we made them up. That may be cheating. They got a sweet tooth, just like I do, that gives me this my dad figure here. And but we made them up with candy bars. We made them up with sardines and things like that. And so whenever they walk by and they get their picture, the camera will actually get up there and it will take their picture. And whenever it does, the next thing you see, you've got Bigfoot looking here at this little space right there. And then the next thing you get is you get a hand reaching in there, get your camera. The next thing you got a 2-hour look through the woods because he's in front of your camera. And that's exactly what happens more times than not. They don't mind having their picture good, but they don't necessarily like it. But that's how we do it. We get a lot of pictures. A lot of these pictures are going to be from the game cameras. And like I said, some of them are not clear, but I'll show you a lot of y'all. The ones from my phone, most of those are clear. If you have what you want to see after our presentation, I'm back in the corner, y'all come up with that short thing on my phone, because they are good. Most of them are pretty good. And my wife did an excellent job of filters, some of them weren't. So we're fixing to have the film strip, not the strip, I guess you call it film out, we're fixing to be here. And so when y'all look, if you have any questions after this or even during the time, remember to write them down and we'll try to answer them for you. So with that, folks, I'm going to say thank you so much for listening to me. I appreciate it. I don't take that for granted that each of you are here to listen to me, and that means a whole lot to me. So I appreciate that. So again, we'll start the slideshow here right quick. We experienced this in Montana, but to a much different extent, probably from a bigger animal that's blowing like that. That's different, probably the size of the creature. But that's the whistle. Went on for over an hour while Stephen was on his logging machine up there listening, waiting for the other creature to get there. This picture right here is from the banks of Marshall, Iowa right here. This was gotten by a friend of mine named James Jordan, man I fish with. If you spend a lot of time in the boat with me, you learn a lot about his character. It took 4 years after he first saw this creature to see it again. It's walking by, and right there he's got some screen. He's down there deer hunting. He's got screen on this outside there where he lives. This thing is actually chasing a deer. You can see the Herman Munster eyebrow. You see the cone head right there. And so there he is, and that's actually the actual creature, one of the creatures like relations like he created. This right here, I don't know if you can see as well, but one thing that they do with us down there at ground zero, they bite my camera. They get your camera, they bite it, and they throw it. We kept noticing our camera was not pointed in the same direction it was when we left it. So I told Stephen, I said, we got something picking up my camera. So sure enough, we set a little limb right there pointing the way the lens was, and we come back and we see that it's gone. So I started looking. Finally, we got there and we got this picture. This right here, there's your canine. It doesn't go all the way down. It doesn't go all the way down, but it's just barely longer than the other teeth. That little space right there that you see is called the primate space. And you've got 4 teeth right there again, and then you've got another primate space, and then you've got another canine right there. So that's actually, bitten my camera. This picture right here was gotten from a little town called Ashdown, Arkansas. My buddy was down there deer hunting one morning. He lived on that property for almost 50-something years. You can see his head right here. Well, this thing comes up, and as he's sitting in his stand, he's got 16 deer in front of him. All of a sudden, the deer all raise their heads like this right here. He figures the deer is seeing him. You can, because my buddy's name's Shannon Crew. Great guy. He farms as well as a welder. 415 pounds and 6'4". He thought, man, they couldn't see me. No, so he picks up his gun to see which one he's going to shoot. This guy's over there in the corner. He doesn't see him, and then all of a sudden, the same way as what I got. And when it does, he freaks out. He turns and looks. They have a face-to-face. And then this thing goes running. Sorry, that finger slipped off. Goes running back that way. He sits there, and he gets a rocket. Starts going in, and then his cell phone rings. 8 years old, full of wisdom, very, very honest man. Called Shannon and says, Shannon, what is that? He said, Dad, you don't want to know. And so that's the day he called me, and I was on Facebook. He said, so are these things real? And a friend of mine said, well, I've never seen one that Will has. So anyway, he said, can I private message? And I said, sure. He said, so these things are really real? And I said, yeah. He goes, I know they are. I saw them as one of my deer stand. Thank goodness, I keep hauling around there, and finally he popped the magic words. Will you be willing to come to my house this afternoon? It looks like a road or a Coyote commercial. The Coyote road behind my truck. It took me about 25 minutes to get those 35 miles in town. So we put out game cams. Finally, this guy comes back and he gets right there where he was standing yesterday. That's what patch of woods right there. So there's his eyeball. Right there's his chin. I said, you can see how thick the neck is. It's actually not a neck. How the neck joins to that back there. Why people say Bigfoot doesn't have any neck. That's where that picture's come from. This one, right here, we went to go see the art exhibit this year in January. And so I kept my camera sitting out. We had some really cold weather. I really, to be honest with you, I was just being lazy. I didn't want to go down there where it was too cold and have it sitting out there. So whenever I do, you can see this right here. He's staring at my camera. I come back. You can see he has blue eyes. I've never seen a blue-eyed Bigfoot before, but you can also see the whites of the eyes. So this is no joke. I've got it on camera. On the photo back there if you want to see it. They sit there, you can see the cones they did. You see the hair right through there. And actually, if I enlarge, there's little teeth right there. He's got really bad teeth, which is common around this area down there. But you can also see if I enlarge it, look right there. There's one right there behind me. This is not as good as what I wished it was. It came right at the time of day when the sun was coming up. Steve and I set this camera out. And when we did, there was a pair of logs like scissors. So we put these candy bars in between these scissors right there. with the assumption that if he comes through, he's going to have to work to get this candy bar, we can get his picture. This is from 4 foot away. And there's a clear picture here, I think, in a minute. You'll see right through here, there's actually, you'll see the fingernails of this Bigfoot, but there's his eyes right there. He actually has a little snout. This is from right there around, right as you start into the Ozark, the Washington Mountains. And so they're a little bit different right there. And over here, he's got a sticker bar in his hand. There's your black fingernail, and right here is actually another one, a little small one right over here, but we just got that filtered up the other day. Hopefully we can get it on there. Okay, this is a place, we have what's called a guinea stump. I took my preacher's son, he sat down and he left a little bit of snack cake. So whenever we leave there, he said, I go to church that Wednesday night, he goes, man, I left a little bit down there. He said, next time you go, would you pick it up? I said, sure. So I go back down there about 2 days later, and whenever I do, there's a little damage going on this. Where's the stump? That's, got the shape, folks, right there. That's where the top of the stump is. It goes right through there. So we put it right there. There's nothing there but rocks. So we began with Stephen and a friend of mine named Randy Crawford, who they started putting the stumps, the candy bars on the stump, started putting golf balls. This little thing right here, that's a baby Bigfoot. And I know it's hard to see, but it's not. He's a baby Bigfoot, and he's actually playing with Legos. That's what he's doing. We've got Legos out there, we got the stickers bar, he got the sticker bar, and he's playing with Legos. And so we had a camera sitting right there. And so whenever he came through, they got his picture. That's actually probably not a 4 or 5 foot one. And we have many more kids got the same animal too. This one it's a little bit darker than I wish it was, but this is one of the Bigfoot that I got. There's a picture that I had on the Travel Channel. And I'm up here, it's my sister's birthday, I'm into the woods looking around, and I keep getting these pine needles and pine cones and pine limbs thrown at me. So I knew there was a Bigfoot there, just wasn't sure, but normally they're not that aggressive down there. And so I thought, man, what is that? Every time I try to look, she was up back behind this tree right here. So I decided, I had a birthday party for my sisters to go to, so I just decided, well, I'm going to try this. So I turned and I started to walk away, and when I did, I put my camera up over my back. I do that right there. Well, I forgot about it for 3 days. Finally, when I remembered, I'm like, man, I've got to make a picture of Bigfoot. And sure enough, I do. And this thing right here, there's her cone head. Right there, I've got a clear picture. There's her fingers. She's got her arm here right there. You got the toes right there. And right in the middle of her chest is her baby. And so that's exactly why she could be as aggressive as what she was. Because I was there in her territory, and I was just being a little bit stubborn with the evil. After she got that way, and then she threw the last stick, I got, and I knew right then it was time to go. So I left, and so the camera phone was 2 days later. So this is the actual reel, so you get a better picture here to see it here later on in the slideshow, and also on the show that I did with These Woods Are Haunted. Good old technology. There we go. Okay, this is not very, very clear, but this was back here early this spring. There's a big brush top right there, and I'm there looking, and all of a sudden I see this one. Here he is. He's a round-headed one. That's the top of his head. There's his eyes right there. He's got a very, very wide nose. And he sits there and he pops that head up, and he's looking at me out of this brush top right there. I had my cell phone with me, and so I took that picture from the cell phone. And so he's sitting there looking. We sit there probably a 3-minute stare down before I finally decide it's safe for me to move. Finally, whenever I start moving, and I look back, he's already gone. But this is the actual picture right here. I'm sorry it's not any clearer than what it is, but that's kind of what you get sometimes when you get these pictures out in the woods. Boy, this is one of the most interesting pictures that we've got. Right here, what you're looking at, you're actually looking at a 10.5 foot tall Bigfoot right here. This log, this Bigfoot is 15 to 20 feet on the other side of this log on a little logging road right there. He's coming up there. He kind of looks like he may even have some kind of little hairs matted up on top. There's his eye. There's his nose. And what's funny is you look over here, this little brush top right here, we have what's called devil monkeys in Arkansas. So they look kind of like baboons. They got the nose, it's got the big nostrils and everything else like that. But there's 4 of these little devil monkeys over here. They won't get close to it, but they're staring at it. And so this thing, where Stephen and I put out a camera, where Stephen is standing right there, I would put another camera over here, so we have a spy camera. And so if something came and got it, and if we didn't get it on one camera, we would get it on another. So that actually came from that spy camera. And if you go back here to my table a little bit later on, I'll show you the camera that he tore up back there. And every piece of glass is broken, every scratch on it's from Bigfoot to it. And I guess he had his meal and he went home. And when we found that the next day, he kept turning our cameras over 4 or 5 times until finally we got his picture. So that's what that is right there. Again, right here, the devil monkey, look right there, you got the teeth, right there, there's his mouth, there's his eyes, got that head, right there. Let me stand over here, right there, there's that monkey right there. I know it's not clear, but this is nighttime. If you get anything at all, sometimes you're just really lucky, and we're very, very lucky on that right there. But look at the nostrils. The nostrils right there are just like a baboon. They're almost like a baboon's nostrils. And then you got those teeth right there. And I've got 2 more recent pictures of this devil monkey down here, but they tend to be around Bigfoot. So far, we haven't really gotten together as close as we got was over right there. Again, that's a close up. You see the eye. So you see they have like a little short snout right there. You see how really big he is. His body's on the other side. He's not just right there on top of that log. He's way to the other side. And so this kind of gives you an idea of just how big. I promise you he's over 1,000 pounds. This is really good. I wish we had it in color. This right here, we put a mirror down there, and it was a place where the Bigfoot would go into the woods. And this thing actually walked so close to the camera that he actually whited out our lens. So this is, you guys are smart. You know what the silhouette is. You see that head right there. And it's like I'm preaching to the choir, because you guys know what these things are capable of, how they're able to camouflage themselves, how they know just what to do to be in the right place so that you sometimes don't get that good picture. But he comes there that close to our camera. And I guess he was looking at, we had a mirror sitting down there, I guess he's looking at the mirror, lost his attention span. When we got that, that's one of the first pictures that we had down there on that SD card. Okay, there's one in here, it's a little hard to see. Right in here, he's hiding, you can't squiggle in this, you see, that's a little hard. Okay, this one is really cool right here. What it is right there is an eye, there's a nostril, there's the other eye. These are fingers right here, these are mama's fingers right here for this baby Bigfoot. There's his hand right there, this is a little albino Bigfoot that we have right there. And again, if we go back to that table, I'll show you a cleared up version of this right here. But he's holding mama's hands and he's getting his picture to it. Mama's not happy about it. If you look right there, there's an eye and there's an eye right there. Which I'll show you that a little cleared up version later on. But so that's right there between the camera. Exactly. Mama's scared Stephen one night. He can tell you that. This right here, we told you about the video. Stephen told you about the video that we got that night. This right here, even though it doesn't show the eyes well, this is a silhouette because it was just almost pitch dark. But this is one of those young juveniles that we had right there. And the mama was turning, her eyes were changing color, and evidently he was acting like a stinger. And so she turned, and when she did, her eyes changed color. They were 8 inches apart. And so when we got that, a very great catch. So we got that a better version also. Stephen threw this up. He's very great audio, very great with the videos as well. This right here, I said they're coming in dark, and I apologize for that. You never know which one. This is called a gunway. He actually came in on me down the Salt River on March 1st in 2020. I had just left Keith's spring camp out, and I found a tree structure. And so I had to go to church that afternoon, and I thought, well, shucks, I'll just stop and look at that tree structure. So when I'm at that tree structure, looking back there, I look behind me, and there's an oak flat. Here comes an animal on all fours. I mean, he is trucking. And I'm like, oh, that's a hog. So I was like, man, I'm off Arkansas. Well, I'm going to see a hog. I sit and wait. I get close enough, and sure enough, I can tell him, that's a big one. So I'm sitting there watching him. He stops, and he's walking still on all fours. He's looking at me, goes into the brush. So I go down there to try to get a picture. I've got my phone down. I've got a few extra minutes. When I walk up there, right here, like I said, and I showed this to some of y'all yesterday, right here is a big log with a stump. It's got them octopus type roots right there. It's got the